Okay, so what we are going to discuss today is how magma can be evolved, or how we may observe the different types of magma and their genesis and their evolution. And it will be a quite broad aspect or spectrum of idea that we will be discussing upon. So here I am going to write down the points shortly which are going to be discussed whenever or how a magma is generated, how their evolution is it happens actually. From a few previous notes, as well as I hope you have gone through your textbooks, that we have seen that magma might be generated by mantle melting, as well as there could be different processes during the melting process, or the melting episode, whenever a source rock gets molten, and different types of magma might be generated due to increment of heat, due to decompression, or maybe due to fluid ingress. Okay, as well as I have also tried to tell you that there is a role of Gibbs free energy, and the assemblage or the system or the components where the Gibbs free energy is minimal, that particular assemblage or that particular phase is stable in case of the magma, or in case of the system when magma is generated, or could be that magma is getting crystallized. And these are all the things you should remember whenever crystallization episode of a magma is taking place, or a source is being molten to form different types of magma. Probably you have already known that magma could be different types, or it could be generated in different types, or variable in, or there could be because of the variation in source, like layerzolite, or could be Hertz bourgeite, which are nothing but compositional terms of assemblages or the minerals which are getting molten at mantle depths or lower crust mantle transition, etc., etc. Not only that, the magma can also be generated by from the middle crust also. And whenever these processes are taking place, there should be changes or diversification of the magma composition, which is penetrating or intruding via crustal depths. Okay, and during that process there are several physical or chemical parameters that type of control the physical as well as chemical characteristic in a magma. Okay, now Gibbs free energy, probably you have heard the term in geochemistry. It is dependent upon H, T, entropy, and the volume or applied pressure in the system. These are the combinations which try to control the Gibbs free energy of any melt or any solid, or whenever the processes are taking place. And the system itself, whenever it is getting molten, whenever it is getting crystallized, in whichever direction, if the crystallization minimizes the Gibbs free energy of the system in a particular pressure temperature situation or condition, then the crystallization will take place. Or the reverse will happen when the Gibbs free energy of the molten phases of the magma is lesser than the Gibbs free energy of the assemblage of the solid. And depending upon that issue, there could be surfaces which might be drawn in terms of the Gibbs free energy. Suppose with increasing temperature, it is a Gibbs free energy graph, and this is how the Gibbs free energy of the liquid is of a system, and this is how the Gibbs free energy of the solid in a system. So obviously at this transition point or transition temperature, the system will be liquefied because the Gibbs free energy or the Gibbs free energy or temperature line, it is showing a lower position than or in a lower y-axis value than the solid assemblages or solid phases involved. Okay, so that's how the Gibbs free energy, which is again dependent upon various parameters, it is trying to control the system. And not only that, there is a role of chemical potential in the determination or the variation of the Gibbs free energy, whether it is low or high, etc., etc., which if you read or go through Philpotts, you will see that there will be number of components, number or the individual components and their chemical potential. They strongly also do control the Gibbs free energy of the system. And there are lots of mathematical tools, combination as well as differential equation which can be used to obtain in which system the Gibbs free energy is minimal in case of a liquid or in a solid, or whenever the crystallization is happening, when the melting is happening, etc., etc. Now these issues are important, but however in your BSc level class it is not that necessary that you draw a diagram or a binary diagram or a ternary diagram and then try to discuss it with mathematical derivations of the Gibbs free energy, and then you might discuss it in exercise book, but you should keep these in mind. And the basics, I think you have gone through Philpotts about the notions of the Gibbs free energy, as well as I had my lectures or tutorials in YouTube. I don't know whether you have gone through them or not. Okay, so basically Gibbs free energy is controlling or being controlled by different parameters, as well as it is controlling the physical state, whether the melting will take place or fractionation will take place, etc., etc. Now what happens, or what are the parameters which are the physical attributes or physically can change or the course of the magmatic evolution? There are lots of things which you should be able to understand, like viscosity, that is the ability of a substance to resist its flow. So much lower the viscosity, much lower the viscosity, much easier should be the material or the medium to flow through the matter. So viscosity is an important parameter. Temperature, contrast should be an important parameter, where the temperature contrast should indicate if in any case, suppose generated magma is moving upwards through the crust due to buoyancy contrast, and the magma should be interacting with the wall rock, or through which the magma is intruding into, and this will be a typical mushroom shape, because whenever or because of the fact that the magma is getting upwards due to buoyancy contrast. Okay, and during this aspect or during this evolution, there will be, suppose the wall rock temperature is T1 and the magma temperature is T2. So then the T2 minus T1 is the temperature contrast, which will determine a thing, how much of heat will be penetrating through, or how much of heat has to be equilibrated with the wall rock, with the magma itself. When the magma will try to cool itself down and the wall rocks will get heated up. Okay, and as you have discussed that the Gibbs free energy, it is dependent upon the HTS as well as the chemical potential and the number of components in a system. It could be that when the magma is intruding in a system of rocks or wall rocks, that the chemical potentials might remain the same. Sorry, the number of the components which determine the chemical potential in the system might remain the same, or they might differ. And it is a complex interplay between or among these two things, or wall rock or the host rock and the magma, where there will be ranges of crystallization that should take place, because the magma is radiating its heat energy. Okay, and the wall rock is getting heated up. As a result, energy transformation. As a result of this energy transformation, there will be melting in the walls. Now, obviously, these two systems will be dependent upon each other, whichever the molten product we are getting into, or whichever the crystallized product whichever we are getting into. However, at the first stages of the crystallization, the magma which is intruding, it should retain its pure state, and some of the crystals or the earlier crystals or the minerals that should get precipitated because of their density, and this thing is known as density stratification in layered magma chamber. Mostly in many types of ultramafic intrusions or mafic intrusions, you might be able to observe this. If we go to field in Singhbhum or wherever I went to in Doitari, probably in some of the mines you will see some of the chromite deposits, and there are some pyroxenes, and the rocks are called pyroxenites, which are pure phases and were crystallized at the bottom of the magma chamber because of their density. However, due to this heat permutation combination, or rather I should say that the transfer of the heat, the wall rocks are getting molten down, and there will be some convection cells which will be generated when or where the lower parts of the magma chamber are getting cooled down, and the upper parts of the magma chamber there is a transfer of the heat due to convection, and slowly this region of the magma chamber is getting molten. And what is happening? That this typical thing, whenever this fractional crystallization or crystallization of the magma is taking place and the wall rocks are getting molten down, it is obviously a process of assimilation. Now, to discuss it with this, Rayleigh number is a very important parameter that might show us whether the convection cell will be remaining stable or not. What are the factors that should determine the Rayleigh number? One is viscosity. It could be composition dependent viscosity. Some of the workers had done it. It could be dependent upon the, it is actually dependent upon the density. It is dependent upon the temperature contrast, and etc. etc. The much Rayleigh number, or the higher the Rayleigh number, there is a chance that the degree of this convection, or the degree of randomness, or the generation of the convection cell will be much more easier. Okay, so that's how the convection cell might help for the diversification of the magma, or rather also in the cooling process of the magma chamber itself. And whenever we are trying to, we might try to observe this Rayleigh number will be like dependent upon, they are equivalently, it is equivalently dependent upon the gravitational density as well as the size of the magma chamber. The much larger is the larger the size of the magma chamber, the much larger is the heat content. The much larger the temperature contrast, the much larger chances of the Rayleigh number is to be higher, because it is equivalent, because it is proportional to the temperature contrast. It is also proportional to the temperature of the magma chamber, and it is disproportional to the viscosity, as well as it is also disproportional to the thermal conductivity of the system. Now that's how a magma chamber might be evolving, and basically this magma chamber, or whenever this magma chamber is trying to evolve itself, it might give you a generation, or it might generate several types of landforms we might see, or which might be exposed into the upper crustal or in the upper crustal sections after it is being after it gets exhumed, or rather denudation process exhumes itself. It could be batholith. Okay, there are many other terminologies like lopolith, laccolith, phacolith, which are nothing but different types of arguments made upon the type of the geographic landform that was generated due to this magma ponding or magmatic interaction with the crust itself. The next section I will try to discuss about Reynolds number and how there are different types of, there could be different types of injections, as well as diversification and different aspects or methodologies magma could be diversified. Okay.